Brown 45! Brown 45! Hot, 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 hot!
You are listening to Any Given Sunday, Australia.
Yes, hello and welcome to the Any Given Sunday Australia podcast, the number one podcast in at least 3 households, 1 studio, American Football Australia head office, NFL Australia head office, Cincinnati, all around the globe, mate. We are growing. I actually just saw in our Spotify thing, we're trending in China. You know that?
Yes, that's so good.
So weird. Joining us in the western wing of his palace at Danny Webb, AGSAU. Why China, you reckon?
Ni hao.
Yeah, cool. You're above my pay grade with that kind of stuff. But yeah, welcome to all our China listeners. We're on to our week 3. Week 3, yes. I doubted myself for a second there. We're already at week 3, Danny. We're flying. Week 3 preview. We've got a couple of things that we're going to touch on that happened as soon as we posted our episode. So we'll get into that. The first thing was your Dirty Birds. Your Birds played the Dirty Birds and couldn't get the job done, mate. It was a bit of a... you messaged me during the game saying this is a defensive feast. And then both sides kind of got going. It kind of felt like your Birds were on top for most of the game. But then some just critical moments late in the game, especially. Well, there was a second quarter or first quarter. You went for a 4th down and missed it, where it was an easy chip-shot field goal, which in the end cost you. And then the Saquon drop late. How do you feel about that game, mate?
That was a very tough watch as an Eagles fan. Like you said, we were up for the majority of the game. Kind of had a little bit of flashbacks to some of the stuff that wasn't going right last season. A lot of that falls on the defense. Can we just please have Hassan Reddick back? Like, he's not playing for the Jets anyway. Like, he doesn't want to be there. Just send him back. Philly desperately need a pass rusher. It's so obvious. The defense isn't like a, proper entwined unit right now. They are just kind of seem a little bit all over the shop. And that last drive by the Falcons, they had like a minute 30 or something, and they went down and scored. Like, you really should have been able to do more to at least hold them back, or force them to a field goal, give us some time. But yeah, give the offense some time. But none of that really happened. It was good to see the battle of the running backs, like Bashan Robertson absolutely dominated. Saquon Barkley was doing it all as well until he dropped the ball, which was killer. Not just for the Eagles, but also for anyone who jumped on our multi as well. It was our last leg that we needed. So he also had a touchdown overturned, which went to Jalen Hurts anyway. So Philly at least still scored. But yeah, having that Barkley touchdown would have been great for the multi.
Yeah, especially when I was, doing something at home, saw him score, walked away, come back, and Hurts scored. I thought, shit, they must have turned it over straight away. But to go back and see that his knee was down at the it was a quarter of the half of a line. That did hurt our multi. But it was a night for Kirko Chains, as they call him. He admitted in the post-game interview, he hasn't quite hit his straps. They're not quite. There's a lot of new things that they've got to work through together. But that last drive, like you said, you guys just couldn't stop him. They were wide open by the looks of it. Your cornerbacks and safeties just kind of let him have that 20 to 30 yards, and he kept hitting them.
Yeah, I just hope it's something that Vic Fangio can improve as the year goes on. That the defense has completely lost its continuity from what it was in the Super Bowl run that we had to actually get there in 2022. Yep, checks out. The run that we had there, like, the defense was like an absolute elite unit, and we're not there at the moment, and that's something that Philly definitely need to work on.
Yeah, definitely. There's also some big injury news that kind of came out literally as we put out our episode. You sent me a couple of messages saying shit's hit the fan pretty much. Tua has gone onto IR, and it looks like he won't be back until at least week 8.
Yeah, so week 8 at the earliest. The Dolphins have actually given him no timeline, so he can take as much time as he needs to get back to the field. He's gone to see all sorts of different neurologists and specialists and stuff like that. The only positive for Miami is that they've actually got the week 6 bye, which, so at least he's not missing that game. Currently, Skylar Thompson is the one who's suiting up as QB1. But, got a little fun one for you. Do Miami make a trade for Trey Lance? Now, hear me out here.
Wow.
That original trade to give 49ers that third overall pick was one of the biggest fleeces in NFL history when they 49ers essentially gave him everything to get it. But now they could go out and trade with Dallas to get him back up for like cents on the dollar and then actually have him play. Like, what a slap in the face to the 49ers.
It'll be interesting to see what they got for that trade and then end up having him anyway, which would be huge. But that's definitely one I haven't thought of out of left field. Because is he the number 2? Is he number 3 in Dallas?
No, I think he's the number 2. He played a fair few preseason snaps. Wasn't really that impressive. I think he
That's
rushed.
right. He had the most turnovers in preseason, didn't he?
Yeah, and he rushed the most yards as well, even more than running backs. So he's probably not the smartest move for Miami, but God, it'd be funny.
Yeah, just nice to know about. But there was also another few injuries. Dr. Danny, just want to run through them.
Yeah, so these ones quick fire because there was a lot, but these are probably the main ones. Pacheco fractured his fib. He's on IR. He's said to miss 6 to 8 weeks. Fractured fib, I'm tipping it's going to be longer than that, but especially if he wants to get back to full form. The Chiefs have actually signed vet Kareem Hunt to the practice squad, as a little replacement. Puka, he's also on IR because he sprained his PCL. His earliest return will be week 7. Cooper Kupp is injured his knee. He'll be out for an extended period of time. He's not on IR yet, but I'd keep an eye out on that, especially for all your fantasy players out there. Debo has a calf strain. He's set to miss a couple of weeks. AJ Brown, hamstring, set to miss a couple of weeks. T. Higgins has actually come out and said that his hamstring injury is serious and that he's not faking it. And his contract extension deadline's already over. So everyone's like, he's faking the injury, so he's not playing. He's come out and said, no, it's serious. He's like, I'm in a lot of pain here. So that's the reason he's still not playing. And then, Keenan Allen sat out week 2, but he's set to be back for week 3. I think he has an injured heel, and it's just a lingering injury that's, flowing on week by week.
A couple of those pretty key. Looking at the list that you've got, Cooper Kupp and Debo, just in your opinion, two, obviously high-class players in each of their teams. Take out the fact that Puka Nacua is not playing either. Who's a bigger miss for either the Rams or the 49ers? Is it Kupp or is it Debo?
At the moment, it's probably Kupp. Like, we saw how well he played in week 1 against the Lions when he came out and, essentially just dominated and kind of looked like his old self again because he was injured for half of last year as well. And I think Stafford was just stoked to have him back. And now that he's gone, the Rams have gone 0-2, not looking anywhere near strong. I think Cooper Kupp's the biggest one to be missed. Brock, in fairness, he's still got Brandon Ayuk. They're using Jennings a whole lot. Still got Kittle, always happy to receive the ball and have the best time ever on the field. So missing Debo is going to be a big hit as well, though, because they're also using him as a little bit as a second running back because of his speed and his quickness and his size, really. I just kind of danced around that whole question.
Yeah. I kind of agree with you there, where I think San Fran will be able to hide the Debo loss better than what the Rams will, especially with Puka out as well. So fair call there, even though I said disregard Puka being out. But yeah, good call. Moving on to this week, a few things, a few stories, a few games I think that we're not going to cover, but I think we should keep an eye out for because they're going to be very, very interesting. The first one, again, news that came out just as we put up our episode, Andy Dalton to start instead of Bryce Young. Now, Bryce Young didn't come into the greatest team. We see CJ Stroud, they built around him and, really gave him an offense that he could work with. And we thought the same thing with Bryce Young, but it hasn't turned out. He's gone 2-16 in his career, which is the third worst start to a career ever. Can you see him coming back from this, mate?
For his sake, I hope so. We've seen other number 1 draft picks like Baker Mayfield is actually, he obviously didn't start this bad, but came back and bounced between a couple of teams, and now he's finally found his feet as the number 1 draft pick. But it makes it tough. He's the first number 1 quarterback to be benched for non-injury reasons. The Panthers though, have been outscored in their first 2 games, 73-13. So I know a lot of that does come down to Bryce in the way that he's like leading the offense, but it's not all on him. Like Panthers have one of the worst rosters out there, and it's no surprise. I reckon Dalton will come in. Like Andy Dalton's going to come in. He'll probably limit a few of these mistakes, but I don't know if they're actually going to make a dent in the NFC South. For Bryce, maybe you can see it. Maybe you can learn. We've seen in the past that QBs actually sit behind decent QBs, which is probably the sticking point here. But who do sit behind decent QBs will actually develop their game and their confidence, and when it's their time to shine, they actually do.
Yeah, Big Red. I don't take it away from Big Red. He was a good QB back in the day. Took Cincy to a couple of playoffs. Who are they actually playing? Because you always think new coach bump, but new QB bump. Could that be a thing? Do you have who they're playing? I'm imagining they're very far outsiders too.
They're playing the Raiders, which is probably a good team for them to go up against. The defense, though, the Raiders saved them when they were playing the Ravens, and they'll probably be even more hungrier. Like don't give Max Crosby any more fuel to the fire, if you know what I mean. So he always normally goes out hunting QBs, and now he's got a fresh one.
I do think you're right though that Andy Dalton will come out. He'll just play smart football. He'll take his checkdowns. He'll go through his reads as he needs to. So I reckon they'll have a little bit of a bump, just with that experience that he's got. But you're right. They're not going anywhere this season. They're still going to be the bottom of the NFC South.
And you saw Adam Thielen like on the sideline when he was completely open, jumping up and down, waving his hands, just in frustration. And then Bryce ended up getting sacked, even though he was wide open. So Bryce wasn't hitting his reads, and that's probably why he has been sat. Like you're saying, Dalton's going to come in, Big Red, and probably be able to hit those, which will make a difference in a lot of these games.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see him traded.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you reckon?
And it could be a good thing for him. Just get out of there. It hasn't been the greatest start. It's not the greatest, place to be at anyway. They're selling tickets for $1.80 to get into a game. So maybe a new start, new place could be a good thing for him. And if they're going to sit him, then I wouldn't be surprised if it does come up. Maybe not anytime soon, maybe the end of the season, but you just never know. But they're not making any waves in the NFC South. So good luck to Andy. Maybe he can revive his career and have a couple of late seasons as the number one. You never know. The second story hits a little bit closer to you. And we spoke about the going 1-1 of your Philly. And now they're coming up against the high-powered Saints. Are they able to stop the Saints, or are they going to slump to 1-2, mate? Because 1-2 doesn't sound great from where we were saying, 13-4.
Yeah, maybe we were just a little bit too hopeful and wasn't paying enough attention to the defense. Although our defense has actually improved since last year, apart from, as I'm saying, not having Hassan Reddick and needing a pass rusher. They're playing in New Orleans. Big worry. Carr and that offense are on a tear. They've scored on every single drive this season. Every single drive. So they've had 14 drives. In that, they've turned 10 into touchdowns and 4 into field goals. So our defense is already struggling, and then we're going up against an offense that's doing that. Yeah, okay, their first win was against the Panthers, but their second win was against the Cowboys. We don't have Micah Parsons.
No.
I am not confident going into this game. And
you gave up a lot of rushing yards to Bijan, and Alvin Kamara is coming off 4 touchdown games. So he's coming in with a fair bit of confidence too. So I might be hitting those. Whatever Alvin Kamara's overs, I'll be looking at those for sure. But yeah, I don't know. I think a game like that where now you're the underdogs. I think it's a good game to get back on your boys' shoulders. A game that I reckon a lot of people have already written you off. And I'm not just saying this because you're sitting here, mate. I honestly think Philly could be a good thing this week where everyone's written them off already. We know that big Jordy Mailata will be in the room saying, boys, this is the time to turn around. This is where we jump on Jalen Hurts' back, jump on Saquon's back, and then let us ride us home. So, yeah, I know you're underdogs, and I think it's a little bit not unfair. You're playing, the Saints have hit 91 points in 2 weeks and playing some great football, but it's going to be a lot closer than what I think the pundits are saying. Whether you get the job done or whether it's, a close game. But say you do lose and you go 1-2, as long as you don't get smashed, I think it's still okay.
Yeah, so the line's sitting at 2.5, which is probably generous, I think, with the way that we ended up losing the Falcons. Mind you, it was a close game, and if it wasn't for that final drive...
Realistically, you should have won.
Or if Saquon had had that catch, this whole conversation would be different. You are completely right. That's Captain Mailata to you.
Yes.
He will be going in there and absolutely revving up those boys. But also, I think Hurts loves being the underdog. He loved being the underdog going to the Super Bowl, He loved carrying that all on his back. I messaged you before the game as well. He just looks locked in for this season. He looks like he's ready to take his team back to the promised land, and he's doing everything he possibly can. I think as much as I was saying, it's going to be really, really tough, and it's like I'm not confident. It's the sort of game where they're going to, have a heap of grit, have a massive chip on their shoulder, and potentially go out and steal one against the Saints.
Mm. And like you said, you were a minute 40 from being 2-0 and everyone going, you know what? Great win after coming back from Sao Paulo. You never know what's going to happen. So let's not throw away the baby with the bathwater just yet. But if you do go out and get smashed, then I'd be a little bit worried.
If we go and get smashed, we need to sign someone else on defense.
Yeah. Yeah. On the other side of that game, Coco Chains, who we spoke about, the Falcons, they have an even bigger challenge going at home, but against the Chiefs. Can Big Kirko and the Falcons take down the Chiefs this week?
Simply put, I'm just going to say no. The Falcons did look better and, playing at home, but Kirk, as you said, during that final press game, he still needs to find his feet. He hasn't got there yet. He wasn't hitting his receivers in these first 3 quarters. That game was won because of Bijan's running ability.
Yeah.
He hasn't thrown the ball. He keeps on making mistakes. So it's just not the consistent Kirk that we have, come to know and love. It used to be like a lock in fantasy as well because all he did was hit passes.
Yeah. Helps when you had JJ on the other end of those passes, though.
Always does help, and that's what he doesn't really have. Like Drake London and May? Slipped my mind. He's still got some weapons, but yes, it's definitely no JJ. But the issue is when you're playing the Chiefs defense is significantly better than what the Eagles was. And then they just got the job done against us. So the Chiefs are going to be missing their star running back in Pacheco. He's going to be out for a long time, but they've still got a lot of weapons, I just think what we've been saying for 3-4 years now, we're just not going to pick against the Chiefs until they give us a reason not to.
So the line's at 3.5 and they're $2.50 outsiders, which I think is about fair, realistically. And just seeing Andy Reid speak to the team after that win, he's just like, you know what, we did this. We had too many penalties. Yeah, we've just won. We've had too many penalties. Our pass rush wasn't good enough, blah, blah, blah. We work on this during the week. We come back better next weekend and we move forward. Like he just brings so much to that locker room and instills so much confidence in that team. And just to think you've still got Patrick Mahomes, you've still got Travis Kelce, who's yet to really fire this week or this year. So, yeah, it's definitely tough. But, again, I feel like the Falcons are riding that train of you're going to doubt us. We're going to come out and show you. But if they get the job done this week, that's a huge win, obviously. And it'll go a long way for them feeling good and making tracks going forward, I reckon.
I just think with the Chiefs, chasing that three-peat, they're going to want to be... You all good?
Yeah. No, you're right. Sorry, mate.
Chasing that three-peat, and I think Mahomes wants to make this a record-breaking season. I think every team he's going to be going in, he's going to be giving himself the MJ treatment where he tells himself that he's the underdog. He'll be doing everything.
You're a $1.02 favourite. No, I'm the underdog.
Just to hype himself up and, go down and try and take down a team like Atlanta, which to me, Atlanta, with having Kirk there now, are still in the growing phase. The Chiefs are well and truly established. Despite their missing weapons, they'll still be fine. just throw more passes to O-line. It seemed to work last time.
Yeah, yeah. It's big boy touchdowns. That's what we love. All right, we're going to review a couple of games, and it's two games that I've picked that are a bit more intriguing. They're a bit more intriguing, I think, for what this weekend is bringing. First one, we're going to look at Texans and the Vikings in Minneapolis. They're both 2-0. One more surprising than the other. The Texans, we kind of picked to be in this spot, and I reckon very early on we had this as a pretty comfortable win. But did I say review? Okay. Two games we're going to preview. I apologise. You've just... Nice. So, yeah, this game, two injuries I'll throw to you. Mixon and Jefferson, both questionable at this stage.
Jefferson said that he is comfortable to be playing next week, and I don't have my ear to the ground on Mixon.
So, even though it is in Minneapolis, 54% of the money is on the Texans. They are still favourites. Just some stats before I get your opinion on how this game is going to go. They're actually not the high-powered offense that they have been the last couple of years yet, the Texans. They're 11th with points per game, where, surprisingly, the Vikings are 8th. And they haven't quite got their passing game going yet, 247 yards, which we expect that to be a little bit higher, I reckon, with CJ. What do you reckon, mate? What's going to get the job done for who?
It's going to be a tight game, I think. I think the Vikings have come out and really shocked a few people by actually being 2-0. Can they get the job done against the Texans? Probably not. I just don't... With Jefferson not being 100%, yes, he is coming out and playing, but he had a hamstring injury. Like, you're never going to be 100% coming into that. I kind of feel like the Vikings really stole a couple to end up being 2-0. So... yeah, my money's going to be on the Texans.
Huge steal they had against the 49ers, though, but $2.20 outsiders, $1.70 for the Texans to take the chocolates. I agree. I think Houston, Mixon didn't look great, that injury. I know it was a hip drop tackle that went across his ankle, and he was really not happy about it when it happened because they've come out and said, we want to stop this kind of stuff. We're going to be issuing fines and stuff. Hasn't really happened, and he let himself be known that this is not good enough. I think, like, probably a similar thing. Sam Darnold has been more than serviceable, but he's not CJ Stroud. And when the big moments come, I think he's doing enough to get the job done, and their defense has been doing enough to hold, the offense. They only had the Chicago Bears this week, but they still, did more than enough to they probably should have won more than the 6 they did. So, yeah, I kind of agree with the pundits. Only 54% kind of shocks me. I reckon they'll get the job done. Again, relatively comfortably, even though it is in Minneapolis.
And just an update on Mixon, he underwent, had an MRI on Monday, let's put it like that. And it was deemed a non-serious or a non-long-term injury. So, bearing any setbacks during practices, he will be playing in week 3.
Yeah, right. So one of these teams will have their first loss of the season. Sounds like we're both going for the Texans to get the W. Yeah. The second game I picked, and the reason that I picked it is the Ravens in Dallas against the Cowboys. The Ravens 0-2. And Dallas 1-1 after their bit of a shock defeat to the Saints. 0-2, 11% chance of making the playoffs. It was something since 2,600 teams. No, I don't know. It was like 25 teams that have been 0-2. Well, it'll be well more than that, but only 2 teams have made it in the last, I think it was 10 years that have been 0-2. So 11% chance when you're 0-2. 0-3, a lot different. You're going to have to go on a tear, and especially in the division they're in, it's a massive game for the Ravens. But then the Cowboys, who just got absolutely pantsed at home, so it's a bit of a revenge game for them, coming back 1-1, getting smashed by the Saints. And I'm pretty sure, I'll just confirm, I reckon they're underdogs as well. So there wouldn't be too many times that Oh, where is it? Yeah, $1.99 to $1.86. The Ravens' favourites. Wouldn't be too many times that they're underdogs in their own house.
No, especially after the Saints snapped that 16-game winning streak at home.
Yeah, regular season. Let's make sure he's at the Packers absolutely pants them during the playoffs.
See, this isn't about the Packers. This
Yes.
isn't about the Packers. No, yeah. So for it to be in Dallas and the Ravens be favourites, it just wouldn't really happen that much. It is super tight. I think the line's at 1.5. So they think it's going to be a tight, contested battle, which I'm not really surprised. Like these two teams both have to come out and prove something now. So the Cowboys have to prove that they're better than getting absolutely pants by the Saints and having one of the worst performances in, I'd say, recent history. And then the Ravens have to come out. Like Lamar Jackson has become the fourth reigning NFL MVP to actually lose his first two games since 1970. And then the most previous one before that was in 2002. So it's been 22 years since a reigning MVP has lost the first two games. You don't think he's going to know that? He's going to come out so hungry, but so is all of Dallas. So I reckon this is going to be an absolute battle. And definitely wants a mark on the calendar to watch.
Yeah, that's I reckon game of the weekend, this game for sure. Any news on Jake Ferguson, mate? The tight end out of the Cowboys?
Not at this stage. I think he's still listed as questionable.
Yeah, fair enough. I know he hurt himself. It was week 1 he hurt himself. Whether he hurt himself again in week 2, I'm not 100% sure. 53% of the money on the Ravens. Who do you see getting the chocolates here, mate? Is it a Lamar revenge game, or is it a Dak and Ezekiel kind of revenge game?
I think with the Ravens being 0-2, I think they're just going to come out even just slightly hungrier. It's only going to be marginal, but they're probably going to have Dallas's number, and then for Dallas to lose 2 games at home, then watch them come out in week 4, and it'll just be absolutely dynamite. Or they're going to implode. Classic Dallas fashion.
Yeah. I'm going to back Dallas at home and send the Ravens to 0-3 to be the real surprise packet of this season so far. I reckon the Cowboys can get the job done, mate.
Let's wait and see.
All right. Let's get on. Last week, I won the Any Given Sunday Bet of the Week. It goes back to you. We were both going through it before. I don't know who you've picked, but we're going through it. There's a couple of games that are a little bit surprising with who's favourites, but a few games that are quite blowouts as well. So do you go for a $3.70 like I did and get it to pay off, or are you going to keep it a little bit tighter, mate? Who are you going for?
I'm going to keep it slightly tighter. I'm going to keep it very, very close to home. I've actually got 2 this week. I think Philly are going to come out and bounce back from their loss and actually take down the Saints, despite Derek Carr being on this amazing run in their offense. That run's going to stop at some point, and it's going to stop this week when they face the Birds. Also, a little bit of sugar for you, a little bit of sweetener. I think the Packers are going to get it done against the Titans. Surprisingly, yes, it's in Tennessee, but surprisingly, the Packers are paying $2.35 for the win.
Ooh, that is juicy.
Tennessee are the favourites, like heavy favourites, $1.63. Hey, I'm jumping on those Packers. So give me 2 Any Given Sunday picks this week.
Yeah, no, I will. Just because you picked my Packers, I'll definitely give it to you. That does surprise me. Tennessee, like you said, it is in Tennessee, but Malik Willis coming from Tennessee, going back a bit of a revenge game for him, and they did hold up they had the Jets. Yes. They didn't do that well with the running game, the rushing game, the Jets against the Titans. So, yeah, all right. I can understand why, but I back you 100%. $2.35. I'm jumping on my pack every day of the week.
It's got to be done. So, yeah, give me those 2 Any Given Sunday picks.
Let's build a multi, mate. So, what are your thoughts on the Thursday game? We haven't really spoken about it. New York versus New England. The Jets versus the Patriots.
So the
absolute
Jets,
blockbuster.
Prior to the season, we would have said this would have been an easy game for the Jets. But the Patriots come out and actually perform better than probably what most people were expecting, taking down the Bengals in week 1. Probably it's actually a little bit tighter than we think. And then the Jets, I thought they would have came out now that Rodgers was back with a little bit more oomph in their game. And I feel like they just seemed a little bit lackluster. Like you said, they had the Titans last week. Only just got the job done. I think it was in the final drive. The Titans actually kind of took it to them a little bit. The Jets haven't really hit their stride yet, I don't think. So this, in all purposes, could be actually quite a close game.
It is in New York. And you're right, the Patriots, they took Seattle to overtime as well. So we're probably being a little bit harsh on the Pats just because of, all the quarterback troubles that they've had. And, you're right. It probably could be a little bit of a hidden gem. Do we see Rodgers starting to pick up, though? Is this the game that... Because they got absolutely torched, the Patriots. 323 yards, I think, Seattle. They had 2 players over 100 yards. Is this the week that Rodgers kind of steps up a little bit in the air?
Well, I think so far he's only averaging 170-ish yards, between 170 and 180. So if we keep it around that mark and hit the overs on the 175... I think it's a safe bet because realistically, at this point, you should be hitting much more. It should be hitting like 250. Like you got targets like Garrett Wilson, and he's got options. You think he'd be hitting way more yards than what he actually is.
Yeah, so I agree. We'll keep it safe with that one. We'll go Rodgers 175. Wilson has to be one. Has to be one of those targets. So what? How safe are we thinking for Wilson? We had 2 go over 100 last week. How safe do we want to get? We want to get a W on the board, mate.
We need to get a W. I think we're 1-3 at the moment, so we definitely need another W on the board. Let's just keep him nice and safe. Give him 40 yards because I reckon he could potentially do that in 2 passes. So in 2 receptions. So let's give him 40 yards. Patriots weren't too bad against the run last week, but they did get torched in the air. Breece Hall is a different kettle of fish, though. How much? He's gone for what, 80 and 100 the last 2 weeks. Is that right? Yeah. So because of that and the Pats actually being able to defend the run, let's just drop it by half. I reckon we'll just give him plus 50, keep it nice and safe.
But he has been used out of the backfield.
100%. So let's throw in some receptions.
Yeah. 100%.
Definitely throw in some receptions there.
His overs is 4.5.
Yeah, I reckon we just hit that straight down the head. I think he had seven receptions last game, and maybe
he did
8 the game prior.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely going to hit the overs on that.
Yeah, all right, sweet. We've got to give some love to the Patriots, though. I don't... Like, Hunter Henry had 12 receptions last week. He only had 2 the week before. He's their go-to at the moment. That was the most tight end yards since Gronk at the Pats, and I can't back their QB at the moment. But their rushing game's been pretty good, and the Jets have given up 2 pretty big rushing games. So, Stevenson, his overs are 65.5. What are your thoughts?
Smash it. Like, we absolutely got to hit that. I think he had 120 in game 1 and 80-ish in game 2. Surely we can trust him to get above 65.5.
Yeah, they're going to feed him, and I reckon he'll have a pretty good game. And 65 seems a little bit low for me, so we'll definitely take that at $2 for sure. 5 legs, mate. Giving us $7.50. I don't hate that at all. It still seems pretty safe to me, which I like.
Yeah, let's get some money on the board.
Absolutely. This game will be better than what we think. I can guarantee you that. All the games we've gone, these are going to be absolute stinkers, have come out to being pretty good. So I look forward to it and look forward to winning some cash for the fair, mate. We will see you early next week for our review, not the preview. Week 3 review. Plus, we've got 2 games Monday night. So in that review, we'll smash out those 2 games on the Tuesday for us, mate. So good weekend. Good luck to Birds, and go Pack Go.